Hey BCOM. Well, this quick video is to introduce you to some best practices for using a LinkedIn profile. I'm going to talk more specifically about some of the research about impression management and then go into what does it mean to have a good profile and what should you be doing on a regular basis with LinkedIn. So the first thing that you've probably heard before is the person who gets hired isn't always the one who's best for the job. It's the person who knows how to get hired. The way employers prefer to fill positions are with known assets. That's part of the reason that we require internships for JSOM. An internship is very likely to lead to a job. We also know things like informational interviews lead to jobs because you've gotten in the door, they know who you are, they know that you're kind of the person they would like to be around, and that's really key. So one thing that you might think about with this is this idea of the potato chip difference. We know, I'm going to go through here, that we use LinkedIn to get a job. So LinkedIn is part of networking for most people. If you're in the sales program, you'll also be using LinkedIn for sales. If you go into HR or you start working as a recruiter, you'll be using it for those purposes as well. You may have started a LinkedIn profile before because you needed a customized URL on your resume. But this is what I want you to be thinking about now. You need to market yourself not as yourself, like your whole person. You need to think about how you can market yourself as an employee and an asset to an employer. That's where that book, The Potato Chip Difference, comes in. Goodman, who wrote that, was an executive at Frito-Lay, and he talks about when you're thinking about hiring or you're thinking about career changes, you need to market yourself strategically to land the kind of job you want. So you might be thinking about this in terms of a situational analysis. What's the field like? How can you strategically position yourself and then create a marketing strategy for your career and your assets so that you're getting through the clutter? One way that they talk about this in the potato chip difference is Goodman talks about when he was at Frito-Lay, they'd have these meetings where they'd come in, this sounds like a cool job to me, with bowls of potato chips set out. And the longer you work at a place like Frito-Lay, the better you get at identifying the type of potato, the temperature it was cooked at, and several other different factors. What does that mean for this? A recruiter can look at your LinkedIn or look at your resume, and they're going to be good like the potato chip people are. They're going to be able to tell the temperature you were cooked at, as in where did you go to school, what did you learn. If you're in the Dallas area, that means they might already identify you with really positive assets and attributes from UT Dallas. On the flip, you're applying for tech jobs. There's definitely people from UTD who've gone to all the top tech companies at this point, but they aren't going to know you in the same way. So you really need to be careful about how you position yourself now that you've done that situational analysis and then decide how you're going to market yourself. The other interesting thing this pulls into for communication theory is the idea of impression management, which actually goes back to the 1950s, although it's something you're probably pretty aware with. This quote here is from one of the key scholars who's researched this. He says that people not only try to convince others to see them as respectable and trustful individuals, but they also want to maintain an established, desired, and positive image. So when they started researching this, they looked at people and the way they acted at work and the way they acted at home, and they thought, aha, there's a difference. And the way people acted at home wasn't that important. It made a little bit of a difference if it bled into the work life. That is not the case anymore. Now you need to manage your impression face-to-face as well as online. And I'm guessing if you've read the news, you have seen, and especially this year, so many people who've ended up fired because of things that they've done that have been recorded and put online or views that they've posted on Facebook groups. I think a lot of those has been maybe positive changes, but it's a big change, and it's something you need to be aware of not only as an employee, but as somebody who's going to be hiring people and then managing people later on. The good news here is that you can steer people's impressions in a positive way online, and you can improve them offline. We know that when recruiters, and not everybody, but most people, when they start looking at a candidate, they're going to take your name, your email, or your phone number and put it into a search engine, or maybe they'll go straight to a social media website and search for you that way. That means you need to have something that they can see. The good news is that LinkedIn is absolutely the easiest way to set up a positive image. Now, your LinkedIn profile, though, only works if it's set public enough that people can get to and view your profile. So once they get to it, what are they looking for? Everything filled out. All of the content is there. Everything has been proofread. You have a unique URL. You have a positive image. So I'll show you examples of that in a second. You've highlighted relevant information for your career and included keywords appropriate for your field. So you've basically done a search engine optimization on your own bio statement. You've limited recommendations to people you trust, and you've added credible people to your network. And really, what does that mean? You need to have contacts. If you have no contacts, it's going to look a little suspicious. They also recommend that you join groups and get more active. So it says they're high quality and research-based information. That just might mean that you're regularly posting things in the feed or giving comments on other people's posts that they've put up. The easy way to think about doing this, and if you haven't already, is to get to the point that you have an all-star profile. That means you have a profile picture, your industry and locations visible, your current position, past positions, at least 2. You'll have your education details and when you're going to graduate from UT Dallas, a minimum of 3 skills and 50 connections. I'd like you to go further than that and also include some projects and courses. But once you get that far, you're going to see on your dashboard, which is private to you, this idea of all-star right there. So that was your goal for this class. I'm not going to be going in, it's on your private dashboard and checking, but that's what you want to try and aim for. Here, for example, are 2 that do, I think, a decent job, but they market themselves for really different industries. Andrew right there is at Uber, so he has a picture where it's his smiling face. Research says, show your teeth. So we have our smiling face, you see his teeth, he's forward facing, but it's also a picture that's pretty casual. It looks like it's been cut off of maybe a group picture. Rachel, on the other hand, went to a university in Houston. She is now a recruiter at Armaca Services Company in Houston. So her profile is much more what we often consider appropriate for Texas. So that black shirt and white shell is really standard dress. You will see both of them right there have a customized URL. And you'll also notice they have, his is probably a little more interesting than hers as far as a subject title line there. And both summaries are pretty lengthy. So when you do this, you want to think about your impression management. How do you want to set that up? When you go to take the picture, you want to fill the frame as they've done with their face and wear appropriate attire for whatever your field is. You'll also want to think about expanding your content so it tells a story about your career goals with your headline, the summary describes your interests, and there is no copy and paste from your resume. Instead, what you want to do on all your job sections is talk about it really conversationally. You can ask for recommendations and, of course, post content. So let's look at a couple of samples here. This first one is Bruce. He is a senior recruiter at Shippo. My favorite thing about this is just how colorful and fun it is. There's so much personality with the banner image. He has a really great like 2-part subject title there. That would be something I'd recommend. So maybe you have senior accounting student at UT Dallas, period, and then put something about what you love about accounting. You'll see that he has a really great line where he says, I find great people and find them great careers. And then it does go on for about another 300 words. You're welcome to look up his profile online. It's a really good one. This next one that I'm going to show you, automatically. So I just showed you this colorful, fun one, and we go to Katrina's, which is still a really good profile. But the lack of a banner image up at the top already seems a little sad. But her summary right there, fantastic first line. She goes into a lot of detail about how she learned that she really enjoyed the field. Really great picture for that field. But again, you might think about something a little bit different depending on what you're doing. This next one I think is a really good example. So this is for my ITS people out there. Daniel is already a software engineer at Google. His profile picture, stereotypical here. I mean, I think he looks like that role. But what I love about this one is the way he talks about how he became passionate about software development. He really demonstrates a lot of personality right there. This next one is an excellent profile. So Rachel is a human resources manager, and one thing she does here that it might be useful for some of you is you can see right here, she got her degree from Berklee College of Music, and now she is working as a recruiter at the Honest Company. So she does a great job talking about an opening quote, so something that her boss had told her, which is a wonderful lead in. And then she talks about how she was curious and how she went from Berklee College of Music to wanting to work in recruiting, specifically with an interest in the science side of working at a place like the Honest Company, which does baby products and other consumer goods. So all of those are really great profiles. All of them are really different. So you do want to think about what's going to be right for your field and what's going to represent you appropriately. Real quick other review of the research on LinkedIn. This should not be for flirting and dating. This has become a problem for some people. Do not use LinkedIn for that. Please go join a dating site. When you use LinkedIn, please respect people's time, and once you get active on LinkedIn, you're going to start to see how people are wasting your time. I get a ton of messages now from people at insurance companies or investment firms who want to give me, take my money. So LinkedIn should be focused on relationship building. I'd encourage you not to use it for cold sales. If you get into a sales position later on where that's what you're doing, then that's fine. Or if you're using it for recruiting, that's fine. But if you're not, be really careful about how you use it. The other thing I want to point out is that there's a lot of research about the gender gap on LinkedIn. We know that women tend to use the site less than men, even accounting for various differences. And we also know that the gap is not closed. So going back 10 years, LinkedIn thought the gap would close on that, and it hasn't. What does this mean for recruiting? You need to be aware that maybe some of the best candidates aren't going to be on there. What does it mean for you? I want everyone in this class, regardless of gender, to have an excellent profile. The research they've done on female MBA students is that they tend to have less content than the male students. There should be no differences. Like, I want you to come out of this class where we have reached equality on the amount of content. So fill it out, be aware that that happens, and be aware one day when you're hiring that we need to be just cognizant of some of the challenges there. All right, the other thing I want to point out is people will say, well, LinkedIn is just not that fun. Yeah, so that's kind of how I feel sometimes about running. It's a practice. It's something that's going to make you stronger and get you where you want to go. Think of going on LinkedIn like just doing any other routine practice. What I'd recommend is going on your calendar and set a time to update LinkedIn, respond to comments, maybe once a week for 15 minutes. And if you're actively on the job market, I'd be doing it more than that. You're doing this update now. I'd encourage you throughout your time at UT Dallas, keep updating your profile. I'd encourage you to consider writing posts or articles and then adding classes and projects each semester. This class in particular, so this is Advanced Business Communication or Business Communication, depending on when you're watching the video, and think about putting those words on there. Getting business communication onto your profile is going to up that sort of searchability for communication skills. Personally, what I do with articles and posts, I have some search alerts on Google for business communication or writing skills and resumes. So when I get that hit that there's a good new article in Forbes or something like that, then what I do is I take it and post it with a comment on LinkedIn. Like I said, I try and make it a practice to go and comment on other people's as well. Even better would be if you're writing original content like articles about your internships, about cool things you've learned. Any of that's going to really help your positioning when you go to be out there on the job market and searched for by recruiters. All right, one other thing I want to point out here. If you have privacy concerns, we've had this happen at UT Dallas before, contact your professor. Contact me. LinkedIn has a lot of value when made public, but we understand not everyone has that luxury. We want to try and strategize what you can do to network instead. All right, big ideas. If you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, oh my gosh, get one yesterday. We want you to think about creating content that represents your field and your goals, and we want you to be using LinkedIn regularly. LinkedIn is becoming the #1 site for jobs, which means your LinkedIn profile needs to be basically picture perfect. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or to the Career Management Center. I'm happy to provide additional resources to you on developing your LinkedIn profile. All right, good luck, and add me on LinkedIn. I'll look forward to seeing you on there.